And, Ivan, many people have the opinion that fear and work kills a person's enthusiasm and ability to create. But today we will talk about something else, about how to avoid all this and make this fear and work become incentives for creativity. Let's go. Whoever works for a purpose that has nothing to do with work itself or finances, he works much more efficiently and is more satisfied with his work. And he is prone to the least burnout. That is, we work more willingly if we see the meaning in what we are doing. And the profession chosen by our wives leaves a very big imprint on us throughout our lives. It develops in our thinking and other things, because every professional community has its own specific way of thinking, whether it's programmers, designers, artists, engineers, doctors, or anyone else. And it would be strange if this were not the case, since most of our lives and thoughts are connected with working with customers and colleagues. And for creative people, the way of life works at all. That is, creative people think a little more about work than ordinary people, but at the same time their work may somehow not differ in any way from the work of an ordinary person. He just thinks about work in his spare time so that he can do it. But now we will break it down in more detail, a little later. In fact, the person who sets ambitious goals for himself and wants to engage in creative work, then he should step away from his work, that is, keep a healthy distance and in no case lose himself in his work. This distancing of you from your work creates such an inner freedom, which is necessary not only for motivation, but also for creativity. But the realization of an idea requires professional skills that are not so easy to achieve and develop without many years of practice. Without understanding how what you are inventing works, at least some direction from this, you are unlikely to come up with something new that will be remembered by many. Even if you are a super creative person without craft skills, then you can come up with something cool. God created it. God created this movie. And he's a parasha. Having skills in one of the directions that is necessary for the implementation of the idea, you immediately accept all the limitations that you will face. And even if you understand this before implementation, and when you are almost finished, you have spent a lot of money and realize that you will not finish anything. You won't be able to implement it at all. And with at least basic skills, you will immediately understand what you can at least implement in theory and what not. So that then your implementers do not have incompetent questions and the following thoughts. It seems to me that it remains to understand what you are smoking there. The artisan country of creativity in the last century seems to be less and less popular. The exceptions can be considered musicians and designers. There is no way to achieve the desired level without daily exercises. And then, especially for designers, it works up to a certain point, until, for example, they comprehend the horror of calligraphy, realize how shitty their handwriting is. Or, for example, he set fire to the manager, got tired of looking at programmers and decided to study coding. And that's it, they sailed. What's the matter with you people? There is a very widespread misconception in creativity that inspiration does not depend on skill. But at the same time, the inability to implement the idea due to the lack of any abilities to make this idea priceless. It costs exactly zero, that's how much. What will be embodied and what will remain in your head is decided by the skill, or at least a basic understanding of it, in order to convey your vision to your implementing colleagues. In addition, from the point of view of intelligence, separation of hands, manual work and the head of idea generation, this primarily harms the head, because you do not immediately understand what limitations there are and, for example, what you can do thanks to such limitations and what you can do thanks to what you know in theory at least. How to make a more budget-friendly and successful version of what you want to do. And I don't need more. In addition, mastery is something that prices itself, regardless of the final product, while creativity can flare up and then run out, which there are already many examples, and then it hardly becomes in the coming hours. And professional skills grow steadily with practice, but it takes time. That is, the bottom line is that creativity is a byproduct of any skill and skill acquired over the years of practice. But skill and professional skills are not only necessary conditions for creativity, but also for any kind of economic independence. If creativity is considered in this way, then this is what a person leaves behind, what is better than he received himself. But most people leave only what they have received or even manage to make it even worse. It needs talent. This usually happens when a person uses intelligence and creativity not for the most creative purposes, but to achieve any other goals that someone from above has set for him. And a person has no desire to further develop in his business independently and think so that he can do it himself. Creativity only becomes a form of life when we begin to think, what is the meaning of our work? Which direction do we choose, and do we leave only the best behind? In creativity, not necessarily in art, but also in science, technology, and even in everyday life, there is no framework. It is only a source of human self-realization in the social world. You just need to push back your work, your primary tasks a little, and think about what you can do at your job in your free time. Here, for example, is the creativity of a welder with infinity syndrome. Here I have already told you what an important role work or craft and your professional skills play in your creativity. Well, now the answer to the last question. How can fear stimulate creativity? This question was answered by fear researcher Borwin Mandelo. It was he who found the relationship between fear and creativity. Fear gives us endless energy for superiority. This is the quote he is writing in the Book of Fear. It is called the Book of Fear. The fact is that creative people are much more emotional and passionate about their own business than ordinary people. Well, I've already talked about it. And if fear does not paralyze you, then on the contrary it makes you hypersensitive, which on the contrary affects your creativity and stimulates it like nothing else. And strong feelings. This is a source of creative success. Nothing motivates like the need to overcome fear. That's why even sociophobic artists take to the stage to enjoy this feeling of overcoming. Therefore, fears can be a source for creativity, but they don't always have to be. This is not necessary. Therefore, creative people differ from ordinary people in that they just think about what they could do. Even at their job, it doesn't matter how creative they have it. What they can do from what they already know, and have. And at the same time, they cannot completely immerse themselves in their work, that is, all 12 hours a day. It is also necessary to have a differentiated, diverse experience. Today I have everything. Thank you all for watching. If you like this video, it was useful for you and something new has opened up for you, then put a like and subscribe to the channel, because I have a video on self-development, self-knowledge, psychology, brain development, creativity and other things. Well, I'm becoming the best as usual, but I was yesterday. See you soon.